Hey, Aharon Rabinowitz here for Red Giant, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at creating this motion graphics treatment. We'll be using some third-party stuff to create our background, and then we'll also be using Red Giant Universe to create the text animation, as well as some color correction done with Magic Bullet Looks and Mojo. Before I go any further, I should mention that you can try all of the Red Giant products. Just download a trial and you'll get a 30-day fully functional trial. You can join Red Giant Universe for free, which gives you 37 free effects at this time and 31 premium ones. And of course, there's also a trial fully functional for that as well. So let's get started. Okay, so here I am in After Effects, and I have to say, setting up the background and this general animation is almost embarrassingly easy. So let's make it happen really quickly. I'll choose Layer, New, Solid, and I'm going to be using this layer for my background, which is going to be made from Element 3D. You could also use something like Cinema 4D to create a background and use Cineware or Render Out, or there's a couple of different solutions, but I'm going to use Element 3D. It's pretty fast, and so I'll choose, this is Element, right? Click OK, and I will choose Effect, Video Copilot, Element, and just jump in here, and I'm going to grab a couple of objects. Video Copilot has a bunch of model packs, and one of the ones I've got here are in motion design, and within that there's something called machine parts. So we'll go in there. I'm going to come all the way down. I'm going to grab two different machine parts. I'll grab machine part 10. You can see what that looks like, and I will grab machine part 12. And I'm going to go over to machine part 10. Now something I'm going to do, which won't have any effect here, but does affect how large we can scale this object up within After Effects, is I'm going to set this from 100% scale to 400% scale. Again, you'll see no difference, but this is really important if you want to scale up your model to be really big, because Element can only scale it up, I think by a factor of 10 or maybe even 100, but it's not enough to get it to the point where I want to get it to. So by doing this to 400%, I've made the model much bigger, and I can scale it up or down as needed. I'm going to my presets here, and for my Pro Shaders right here, I'll just go with Metal, and I'll choose for this one Metal Rough. Again, you know, if you're working in Cinema 4D, you can make the textures yourself. You can find lots of textures online. Nick Campbell at Grayscale Gorilla has a ton of great texture materials that you can buy for Cinema 4D. But again, here I am in Element 3D. This is the fastest way that I can do this, and it looks pretty good. So one thing that I do want to do, though, is make it so that I repeat this texture a bit more, because when I zoom in, you know, it looks like these things are a little bit big, and it doesn't feel like I'm in something that's ginormous, and I want to feel that way. So what I'll do is I will set my UV coordinates to 4 by 4, which tiles at 4 by 4 instead of 1 by 1. So now you can see it looks a little more repetitive here, but when we go inside, it doesn't feel that way because we're very close to it, so we don't see the whole pattern repeating over and over again. Alright, I'm out of there, and I do want to set this to be group number 2, not group number 1, because we're going to be doing two different kinds of scaling on the two different machine parts, and I want to have complete control over that. Machine part, I believe this is machine part 12. Let me pull out a little bit, and for material I'll use black steel, and I will again just kind of go in here, set this to 400%. I'll set the UVs to 4 by 4, and this is group 1. That should do it. I'll click OK, and this is what we've got. So I'll come in here and I'll set my group 1 scale to the particle. Look here, I'll just set the particle size. Let's just scale that up. Keep making it bigger. I want to come through it, so just get it big. Maybe, I don't know, go to 45% or something like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same for group number 2. So particle look, particle size, I go to 45. Okay, and now I'm just going to have to fudge this a little bit. So do it so there we go, something that looks just like that. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to add a null. I'm going to use this to link to a camera. Let me just make it 3D, and I'll choose Layer, New, Camera. And we'll go with 35 millimeter. And let's bring this down to here. And I'll link this camera and null together. So now, when I hit rotation for the null, let's try this on the y-axis. You can see that the camera is moving in a nice circle. If I were to try to animate the camera on its own this way, it would kind of move in as I was rotating. This is a really great way to make sure the camera stays equidistant from the center of your composition as you rotate. Okay, for now I'm going to leave that as is, and I'll add in a new light. And let's go with a teal one right here. Oh, kind of like just a little more like that. Okay, and I'll bring this up on the y-axis. Let me hit P for position here, and I'll just kind of move this to the side a bit on the x-axis. I can go the other way too, doesn't really matter. In fact, why don't I do that? Go more towards there, and higher up on the y. That's a z. There we go, just something like that. That should do the job. And again, you know, bring this back to 0, and do this a little more like this. Just something that looks like that. Okay, cool. And now I'll add in one more light. And this one, I'll make more of an orange. And I might reduce that brightness to 15. And, you know, in fact, let's go a little bit lower. Just a little something there. Maybe move that down a tiny bit. Okay, one other thing that I want to do with Element is to add in ambient occlusion. It kind of creates sort of shadows, a little bit of dirt around everything, especially around the edges of things. So I'll go into my render settings here, and I'll look up ambient occlusion. I'll turn that on. And you can see things get a little shadow. It's hard to see what's going on. Let me bring up the intensity. You can see around the edges we get a little more dirtiness, and I'll probably spread the radius out a bit. And again, bring up that intensity a bit more. So now it looks a little darker, a little grungier, looking good. Now if you're not using Element 3D and maybe using a 3D program like Cinema 4D, you can build a background like that pretty easily. I'm not really a great 3D modeler, but you know, I have some skills, and I'll show you a couple of hints. So for the next 3 or so minutes, I'll just share some ideas for building a background similar to something we're working with in After Effects. Not exactly, but it'll get you close. And of course, you know, what you can do is you can render this stuff out in your 3D program and match the camera in After Effects with whatever tools the 3D program offers. You can also try saving it as an OBJ, wavefront object, and bring that into Element 3D, or you can use Cineware, which allows Cinema 4D projects to be brought into After Effects. I'm not going to cover any of the camera stuff, but I will show you some basic modeling tips within Cinema 4D that can give you a whole bunch of things to fill up your screen. So I'll start with a spline. We'll go with a cogwheel, and then we'll also add in a circle. I'm going to make that circle just a little bit bigger, just to go to the very outside of the cogwheel. I'll select the cogwheel, and I'll give it something like 36 teeth. And I'll raise up the inner radius, and with both selected, I'll rotate on the x-axis -90 degrees, and from there I'll hit C to convert them to editable splines. Once they're 2 editable splines, I'll choose Object, Connect Objects, and Delete, and that makes them 1 spline, and it deletes the originals because we don't need them anymore. So now that I've done that, I'm going to just scale this out a bit. Let's say 1000 by 1000, and that makes it quite large, maybe even a little bit bigger. Let's go for 3 and 3, and it's quite large now. Then I'm going to choose an extrude, and I'll put my circle here, the shape rather, into the extrude, and I'll just tell it to not extrude on the z-axis, but to do it on the y. Alright, we'll go nice and big. We have to go crazy in here, just want to give you an idea. So I'll move my extrude down a bit just so that I can see what I'm working with here. And the next thing I'll do is I will add in another shape. We'll go with a tube, and let me bring that inner radius up like that. Well, let's get this out to the point where it cuts through right there, even a little more, so it's beyond the edges of the object. And we'll do something with the inner radius to get it close to that as well. Not quite, just like that. It's good enough. And let's raise the height a bit. Okay, and I'll move myself up just a little bit. And I see that I've just got to move my extrude up a little bit too. And we'll bring that up to -1000. Okay, it's good enough for now. And I'm also going to add in a cube. And let me scale that down. So let me hit C to do that. And I'm going to scale this, like like this, just something to give me a little bit of nernies, as my friend Harry Frank likes to call them, but we're really talking about things that are sticking out from here and there, like on your regular Death Star. And what I'll do is I will create an array, and I'm going to put this cube into the array, and it duplicates a bunch of them, and with my array selected, I'm going to send that out there into the wild. All right, and let's change the number of copies. Let's get a bunch of these little things, and let me also raise the height of the cube a little bit, and I'll move this array up just like that. I'll maybe raise the height of the cube a little more. And I'll duplicate this array, Command C, Command V, and I'll move it down so we've got a duplicate of it. It's not perfect. Grab array 1 and move that back up a little bit. But as you can see, we've got, you know, some cool stuff going on here. And you can create different kinds of shapes like this, and there's a lot more that you can do than I've just shown you, but hopefully this gives you some idea of what you could do if you wanted to create your shapes and your backgrounds in Cinema 4D. Okay, back to After Effects. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is add in some text. I'll choose Layer, New Text, and I'll type in darknet. Now, I am working with letters that are gray, not white, and there is actually a reason. It happens to be the last color I used because I obviously practiced this tutorial a little bit, but I want something that's not super bright white because we're going to do some things to this that are going to make it over bright if we do it that way. So we want to keep it a gray instead of a white, and then that won't happen. So I've got this text right here. One thing I'll do is choose Layer, Transform, and Center Anchor Point and Layer Content. Then I'll hit P for Position, and I'm going to reset the position so it's centered, and I'll scale this up a bit. And I'm going to be adding effects to this, but I find that text and also shape layers, because they don't actually have real dimensions, they don't play nicely with 3D and effects. So I'm going to choose Layer, Precompose, and we'll call this Hollow Text because I'm going to put some holographic effects on there, and I'll click OK. And for now though, let's try just doing a transition on with glitch. I'll choose Effect, Universe Transitions, and Glitch Transition. Now, one thing I want to do here is, before I go any further, is I'm going to make this 3D. And as you can see, it turns black because it's reacting to the light. I want to turn that off, so let me just hit AA to reveal all 3D properties. And I'll set Accept Lights to off. Now lights won't affect it. I'm also going to set the blending mode to add, so it brightens what's behind it. And going into the effect, I'm going to make sure that compression max is set to 0. Actually, what I'll do is better if I start by choosing a preset that I really want to work with. So there's lots of presets to choose from. I'm going to go with one called Text Wide Chunks. And as you can see, text, by default, almost all the text presets have no compression turned on because text and compression don't play nicely together. So with that done, I'll also just set the saturation of the transition because get these colors that are here, the green, and there'll be pinks and reds. So I'm going to set the color saturation, I'll set that down to 5. As you can see, that brings it closer to the white. Now, obviously, you can see it's kind of a mess here. So what I want to do is I'm going to turn this all the way up to 100% transition, so we don't see anything, right? At 100%, it's transitioned off. Now, or it could be transitioned into the B footage if you have B footage. In this case, I'm using a transition a little differently than it's traditionally used. Usually you transition from A to B. In this case, I'm transitioning from A to nothing. So mix at 100% makes it completely gone. I'll move to about 12 frames in here, and I'll set a keyframe for the mix at 100%. I'll move to about 1 second or beyond, and I'll set this to 0. Okay, so quick RAM preview, and we can see our text transitioning on. Now, if you don't like the way that looks, and it's not my favorite, something about it's kind of bugging me, so I might change to a different look here. Something totally different. Just by playing with the random seed, it creates different looks. And again, let's do a RAM preview. And that's looking pretty cool. I like that. Better than like the other one. Okay, and so let's also hit U to reveal our keyframes. And what I'll do is, right about here, I'll transition off. So I'll Command C to copy, Command V to paste it, and then I'll right click on it and choose Keyframe Assistant, Time Reverse Keyframes, which you can't see on your screen, but that's what I've done. It reverses the keyframes. So we'll set it so they end just before 4 seconds. And now that we have that in there, we can do some good camera work. I just wanted to be able to see what we were looking at. So let's start with this. Get our Y rotation. I'll set a keyframe for it, and I'll bring it right to there like this. And over time, bring it down to the end here. I'll bring it back the other way. And maybe that's too much, just something that looks like this. And now we can see a RAM preview of that. Alright, and here you can see it. Right? I'm also going to set the end of the comp there so that when we preview, it just repeats. Okay, so we've got our first look at that. Another thing that I'm going to do is add in the glitch effect on top of this. Now, I want to have it glitching throughout the entire time that we're seeing this text because, you know, it's kind of sitting there. It's a little bit dull. So I'll add the glitch effect on top of the glitch transition. You need to add it on top of the transition instead of underneath it or before it because transitions can only see the original layer as it exists. It can't see any effects that are on the layer. But if you add them on top of the transition effect, then you can see them. So with my text selected, I'll choose Effect, Universe Stylize, and Glitch. And as you can see, that looks pretty messy because, again, compression is turned on. I'll set that to 0 for compression. I'll set the saturation for the small glitches. Let's see if we can see some small glitches here. Get them going. Yeah, let's just see some stuff here. So you can see there's some color there. I don't really want any of these little bits of color. I'll keep it really, really low. Bring the saturation to 2. So there is a little bit of something, but it's not a lot. And I'll also set the displacement. Again, you're not going to see much of it right now to about 0.2. I've played around with this. It just creates a little less pushing of the pixels away so they stay closer to the base of the effect of the text here. And we do a RAM preview and we'll see glitch kind of working its magic while it's rotating. So kind of gives us some ambient animation. And as you can see, that's pretty hefty though. I think I'm going to lower the amount of the glitches. Oh, I know what I don't like. See, what's going on here is we've got a lot of that shaky to the left and right, and that is happening because we've got wide glitches. And I'm just going to turn them down to 0. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, as you can see, looking pretty cool. Got a lot of ambient animation going on there. Looking nice. Okay, the next thing I want to do is add a holographic look to my text. So I'm going to jump into my holotext pre-comp, and with this layer selected, I'm going to choose Layer Pre-compose again. Now again, the reason I'm doing this is because when I apply certain effects to text or shape layers, you just find that it doesn't play that nicely in After Effects, especially with 3D involved. So by doing this, we'll just kind of pre-compose it, and it'll be treated like an image rather than actual text. So we'll choose Effect, Universe Stylize, and we'll go with Holomatrix, and I will start by using a preset here. Let's just go to hologram or bad reception blue. Let's do that. And let's do a preview. Just one more thing. Set this to 24 frames per second because that's the speed of my comp and it makes the animation more fluid. Let's do a RAM preview right now. Alright, I can see a few things in here that I don't like, so I want to turn them off. So let me go into my effects. And one thing I'm going to do is set my colors from blue more to teal. Just like that. Not too much to deal with. I just went to my color brightness settings and did this. And then I'm going to just come down here a little bit and I'm going to turn off the interference ghost distortion. I like having that ghost that pops up with the text repeated, but I don't like the way it's kind of making it wavy, at least not for this. I also noticed that it randomly went into low res, so I'm just going to shut that off, turn off random low res. Now let's do a preview of that again. As you can see, Holomatrix is a tool for creating the look of holographic imagery, and now it's looking more like what I want it to look like. So I'll come back into my main composition, and now we've got this hologram on top of our background. Let's do a RAM preview of this and see what that looks like together. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. So let's do this. Let's add a little more drama to the whole thing. Now, one thing I can do is definitely play with the camera angle a little bit. So let me rotate this null. Let's try some X rotation right here. little bit like this, and we'll go to the end and maybe go the opposite direction, just like that. And we'll play with the Z rotation as well. Yeah, something like this maybe. And come back to my first frame. You know, just something that gives it a little bit of a not straight on look. Yeah, that's looking much better. Cool. Okay, now for more drama, let's do some color work here. I'll choose Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to add in Effect, Red Giant Color Suite, Mojo. Now, you can do what I'm about to do with looks. It's a little bit harder, so even though I'm going to be using looks for something else, I find that using Mojo for creating this look is this blockbuster, the teals and the oranges, really much easier to work with. So as you can see, this is already looking much more dramatic. Let's take a look at that now. That's pretty cool. So one thing I try to do when I'm working with 3D to give it a little more of a real-world look is to create some lens aberration. So I'm going to choose Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and I'll choose Effect, Red Giant Color Suite, Magic Bullet Looks. I'll jump in here. I'm going to add in chromatic aberration, and I'll set the reds here to 1 and the blues -1. And as you can see, it splits the color a little bit on the edges here, and it's really important because when you do have lens aberration, it really helps lend to the feel that this is a real thing and not just something that's been created in CGI. A couple other things I'm going to do are add a little bit of edge softness. This is way too intense though. Let me move out and just bring this up a bit, and also bring down the blur size to 3%. And then also I'll just add in a little bit of lens distortion. Not a ton. So let's bring this back to where it's at. Just a little bit right at the edges. Just a little bit. Okay, so now as you can see, there's sort of these lens aberrations, the red, the blurriness, the kind of the bulging of the sides. Looking pretty good. I'll click Finished. And now that we're back here, there's one last thing I'd like to do, and that is I'm going to select my element layer, and I'm going to choose Effect, Universe Glow, and I'll choose Chromatic Glow. Now, as you can see, it creates these little glows that it's a little hard to tell here, but it splits the color in the glow a little bit. This is really cool because, again, as you're trying to create things that look more like they were filmed in camera as opposed to created with CGI, splitting the color a little bit here and there really helps. Now, Element 3D does have some chromatic split, but it's not particularly flexible. And I like to have flexibility when I'm doing this stuff, especially because I want to choose very carefully what parts are getting glowed and what aren't, and what that glow looks like. So with my chromatic glow on, I can lower the threshold a little bit and brighten things up just a little bit. I can blur the threshold so that it doesn't pop too much. And if I really want to raise the intensity, I can. I don't think it's necessary here. In fact, I might even want to dial that back a bit. So I may bring this down just a little bit. But we have some kind of chromatic split glow there that's very subtle, but it's very there. And now let's do a RAM preview. That's looking pretty good. And of course, there's one last thing whenever you're working with CGI and you want it to look a little more real, is to turn on motion blur. And for that, we need to make sure that we've turned on motion blur for all our layers. I'll hit A, twirl them up, and I'll just turn on motion blur like this. And again, one last RAM preview, and I think we're there. And there's our preview, looking pretty cool. I like it. Let me show you something fun that you can also do with this kind of animation. I'm going to choose Composition, New Composition, and this one I'm going to set it to 1024 by 1024. I'm going to be creating a texture map for Element 3D, and I'll choose Layer, New, Solid. Click OK. I'll choose Effect, Universe Generators, and Checkerboard. Now, this is a free effect. Lots of Universe stuff is free, so you should check that out. At the time that I'm recording this, there are 37 free Universe effects and 31 premium ones. Alright, so I'll set this to black, and let's just spread out the columns a bit. Let's do this, just like this. That'll do the job, but maybe have a few more. Maybe let's go with 25. That'll do the job. And on top of that, I'm going to choose Effect, Universe, Noise, and we'll go with Turbulence Noise. I'll set the blending mode, just so we can see it below it, to darken, and I'll set the interpolation to blocky flat. I'll bring the complexity maybe down to 2. Now let's keep it at 1 for now. And I'll also just zoom it up so we can see this. Something that looks like this. Let's bring the contrast up a bunch. And the brightness, maybe bring the brightness down, brightness up, do that. Play with the gamma. Just want to get something that looks, yeah, bring the brightness up a tiny bit. Okay, so we get something that looks like this. Just like that with the gamma. And I'll also play with the scale just to get it to a place where the zoom where I'm a little happier with what we've got. That looks pretty good. And then I'm also going to choose Effect, Universe Generators, Grid. And we'll do the blend mode to normal, and we'll do with this one, the secondary color opacity, we'll just turn that to 0, and we'll set this to black, and I will bring the thickness up a bunch. Okay, so I've got what I'm trying to create here are basically a bunch of portals, and you know what, I want to have these be yellow, so I'll go back to my original checkerboard, and I'll set the color to be more of a pale yellow. Okay, so let's just name this composition texture, and in my main comp, let's bring texture and just drop it in the background. We don't even need to see it. And with element, I'm just going to come here to custom layers, and I'll set the custom texture map, this one right here, number 1, to texture. And then I'm going to hop right into our scene setup. I'm on the exact right part, machine part 12. I'll go into black steel, and I'm going to add, for an illumination map, I'll choose our texture. I'll click OK, and moving a little further down, illumination, I'll set the intensity to 100. So now we've got what looks like a little bit like a city. Click OK. And boom, a lot of stuff going on there with lights. So now it could be the inside of a spaceship if you wanted it to be. And what I'm going to do is just go back to my glow that I've got going on here. And I'm going to bring that threshold back up a bunch, just so that the city lights are the only ones getting that look. And also, I'll bring the intensity down a tiny bit, bring that to 2, and bring the radius down a tiny bit as well. So maybe make that 12. And now let's do a RAM preview of that. Now that is looking pretty sweet. Alright, as I mentioned before, you can download a free trial of any of the Red Giant products you saw in this tutorial. You can just head over to a product page and choose Download Trial, and then just choose your OS and it'll help you download from there. You can also sign up to Red Giant Universe for free. Signing up to Universe gives you, at this time, 37 free effects and also a trial of 31 premium effects. Universe runs in Premiere Pro, After Effects, Final Cut Pro, Motion, and Sony Vegas, and more hosts are being added, and more tools are always being added. So check it out at redgiant.com/universe and sign up for free. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's free and it's awesome. As always, I hope that this stuff has helped you in your work. Once again, I'm Aharon Rabinowitz for Red Giant, and I'll see you soon.